A grandmother and her grandson recovering this morning after they were mauled in a dog attack in Golden. How police officers pulled the attacking pit bulls off of them. Railroad workers strike a deal, avoiding a nationwide strike. The terms of their deal and what it means for goods and services across the country. And universal preschool could soon expand for many Colorado families. The steps being taken today and which families could qualify for the services.
Thanks so much for joining us for Denver 7 News at 11. I'm Jason Grenauer. A grandmother and her grandson recovering this morning after a frightening dog attack in Golden. Denver 7's Jessica Crawford has the latest on their conditions and how officers came to their rescue.
You can just imagine the fear that elderly woman felt. Officers had to get between those two pit bulls and that 89-year-old woman to help stop that attack. Officers say they did ultimately have to tase those dogs. Here's a look back at video from the scene from yesterday. This all happened yesterday afternoon on West First Avenue here in Golden. The dogs attacked a 12-year-old boy and he got away to a neighbor's house to call police. When officers arrived, there was a trail of blood going up to the house, and they found the dogs actively attacking the woman in the backyard. Every time officers approached that grandmother, the dogs would circle the police. They shouted at the dogs, but they say that didn't work and that they had to use tasers and beanbag shotguns to get them to back off. That grandmother is hospitalized with critical injuries. The boy was airlifted to Children's Hospital. Police say the dogs involved in the attack are currently contained and that they are not a threat to the public. The victims did know the dogs, but it's not clear who they belong to. I checked the city code, and here in Golden, there is not a ban on pit bulls. However, it is unlawful to have a vicious animal here. So if your animal does do a vicious attack on someone, it could be impounded, and in some cases, it could even be put down. In Golden, I'm Jessica Crawford, Denver 7.
4 people had to be rescued from a burning townhome early this morning in Westminster. We do know they're hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries. Firefighters say sprinklers helped contain this fire to just this unit. The cause is still under investigation. A railroad strike is on hold for now. Early this morning, the Biden administration announced a tentative deal between railroad companies and labor unions. Workers will get 24% raises over the next 5 years, with a 14% raise and bonuses immediately. This agreement will now go to union members for a vote. The president says it will keep our critical rail system working and avoid disruption of our economy. Universal preschool could soon expand for many Colorado families. An advisory group will meet today to talk about that plan and eligibility requirements. Colorado is already set to offer a minimum of 10 free hours for 4-year-olds starting in 2023. After a final recommendation later today, a decision on who's eligible for up to 20 hours of free preschool will then be made by the end of this month. After 4 months, the Adams 14 school district is now accredited once again. The Board of Education stripped the district of its accreditation back in May following more than a decade of poor performance. The district said the loss of accreditation was affecting their ability to hire teachers. Adams 14 is still facing a long reorganization process. New this morning, some say the end may be in sight for the COVID pandemic. The World Health Organization says new weekly global deaths fell to their lowest level since March of 2020. The organization reported about 11,000 deaths between September 5th through 11th, which was a 22% drop from the previous week. New global weekly cases fell by 28% over that same time. The U.S. averages 478 COVID deaths a day and about 73,000 new cases per day. The U.S. government is updating its latest strategy to fight COVID-19. Later today, the White House is expected to unveil a plan it calls the Global COVID Response 2.0. White House officials say the strategy is geared at ending the global emergency and protecting health systems around the world. The plan aims to vaccinate people with the highest risk in preparation for future variants. The White House is requesting $4 billion to implement that strategy. Well, outdoor dining kept restaurants going at the height of the pandemic, but now Boulder leaders are looking at the possibility of going back to pre-pandemic setups. As Denver 7's Veronica Acosta reports, not everyone is welcoming those possible changes.
Those concrete barriers that you see behind me likely won't be here much longer. They were brought in more than 2 years ago at the start of the pandemic to try and help some of the restaurants at the West End Pearl section of this downtown area out. They wanted to help them with getting people in those restaurants, that outdoor dining as well. These were places that were really struggling at the time. But with the height of the pandemic now seemingly behind us, some of those spots are saying that these barriers are now hurting their business. Meantime, other spots here say that's not how they feel.
I haven't had a single person come to me and say, oh, I'm glad that the street is going to be available for cars again.
The street closures hurt our business. It's hurt our sales a little bit because we're not accessible to all of our diners who want to drive or park or Uber, bus routes.
I spoke with a coffee shop owner in the area yesterday too, who told me that he had seen about a 30% decline in his business, and he blamed it on the barriers as well. So if you're asking yourself, what's next? The city of Boulder actually wants to continue the conversation surrounding West End and its reopening because they got so much pushback from people who say they really like being able to walk around in this area without those cars. The city also floating another idea, potentially making other spots in the downtown area more pedestrian friendly and closing them like they did West End. That's one of the other things that's going to be discussed today. These discussions are all going to be happening at the city council meeting tonight. That's scheduled for 6. In Boulder, I'm Veronica Acosta, Depot 7.
Veronica, thank you. A major highway expansion project in downtown Denver is off the table, and some advocates are celebrating that news. Now, back in 2019, CDOT started looking at I-25 between 32nd and Alameda. This section of I-25 is one of the highest trafficked areas in Colorado. I know I've sat in the backups a lot there. But CDOT is removing the Central 25 expansion project from its 10-year plan and instead planning safety and operational improvements.
So this is the right path for our future, and we're really excited to see that CDOT is putting the brakes on this highway widening project through Denver and is instead investing in ways that are going to expand travel options, which should reduce pollution and make our streets safer.
Now, advocates want more money for transit and making streets more people-friendly. CDOT's new Central 25 plan lists possible ramp changes to reduce crashes and delays. But CDOT says all the improvements are planned in the later years of that 10-year plan. You can read the update online. Today is the last day to weigh in with your comments. Here's a live look at Westminster Hall in London, where people continue to line up to say goodbye to their beloved Queen Elizabeth. She will lie in state there until Monday. ABC's Ines de la Cutara reports from London.
This morning, thousands lining up to pay their respects as Queen Elizabeth II lies in state at Westminster Hall.
She's been reigning throughout my life. It's always been the Queen. And you just think she'll always be there. So it was a case of, I've got to come and do this.
The line snaking through central London, the government live streaming its progression on YouTube, at one point over 4 miles long.
Everyone's sad and happy. Sad for the Queen, she's wonderful, and happy for Prince Charles, our future king. He's going to make a wonderful job.
You can see these people lining up here on Lambeth Bridge. The line is moving along quite quickly, and they're waiting to get into Westminster Hall right here, where the Queen is lying in state.
I think it's brought the country together. Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales. I think it's been, even in death, the Queen has worked her magic.
The Queen brought to Westminster in a solemn 38-minute procession on Wednesday. Her coffin was carried over from Buckingham Palace on a horse-drawn gun carriage, members of the royal family following on foot. Today, the Prince and Princess of Wales traveling to Sandringham so as to view the floral tributes left by members of the public in memory of Her Majesty. Meanwhile, rehearsals for the Queen's funeral are underway. Guards, officials, and members of the armed forces all marching through London in the early hours of the morning.
And according to the King's spokesperson, the King and members of the royal family wish to express their sincere gratitude for the outpouring of support they've received from around the world. Ines de la Cutara, ABC News, London.
British Prime Minister Liz Truss is expected to meet with President Biden ahead of the Queen's funeral on Monday. That's September 19th. It will be their first meeting since she took office last week. Arvada police officer Dylan Vakoff will be laid to rest tomorrow. The memorial service starts at 10 a.m. at Flatirons Community Church in Lafayette. The service is open to the public. We will carry the service on air and on our streaming platforms. Meanwhile, the man accused of killing Officer Vakoff appeared in court remotely yesterday. Sonny Almanza will be formally charged on Tuesday. time is running out to find affordable housing in Denver. How to get your name into the once-in-a-year lottery. And there's a new place to get a treat and soothe your sweet tooth here in Denver. The company whipping up some fun flavors and turning a fine day into a great day.